Okay, can you hear me now? Excellent, I can actually walk around. Hi. Very early, and now I'm nervous, because there's so much I could tell you, and I wouldn't even know where to start. Right, I'm 42. I failed my leaving cert at 16. I repeated it at 17. I was never going to be a standard go-to person college, because back in 1986, 1987, you still paid for your fees, and it was never an option in our household to be able to afford that, so I was never going straight to college. I had a boyfriend at the time whose father headed up cargo in Aer Lingus, and he suggested I go to FÁS and do a freight forwarding and customs clearance course, and maybe at night I could throw myself into college somewhere if the need took me. So at the grand old age of 17, I headed off to FÁS in Baldoyle, and I did start a freight forwarding and customs clearance course. And I took the £58 they gave me by day, and I went to the College of Marketing and Design at night. And so began my long career of then working for other people. I then got a job out of that course into Gatto, and they continued to pay for my fees at night. I then, after 4 years and a change of boyfriend, I then headed to the States. It's important, the boyfriend, because I'm going to show you some pictures and you're going to see why he's important at this point. His name was Ken, born the 9th of April. Very important factor here. Second boyfriend was also Ken, born the 9th of April, but he was in engineering in DIT in Bond Street. Kept him for another 3 years. And while you girls think this is a great career move, there's actually a plan along the way in this. And the boyfriend that did exist for a little while was also Ken, but born the 16th of April. I did manage to trade a week. And, and relevant to the story, why? Because I'm going to show you what happens along a career. I'm divorced, as you can imagine, and because I work. And it wasn't a Ken, it was a Stephen, and it all went horribly wrong. So that's my sex life out the way. Now to tell you about my work life. And yes, I'm still single. No, I'm teasing. There's problems in all corners of my life. I do have 3 kids now and 2 dogs. I did start my career at 17. I did work in Gatto, Jacobs. Now I've been fortunate along the way, because I can make a claim to fame that I was given a job by Dennis O'Brien, and I was given a job by Michael Carey who subsequently owned Jacobs. I went to work for him, and then he bought the damn place. I have worked with some amazing entrepreneurs, but it wasn't by a stroke of genius. It was just sheer luck that I happened to apply for a job and be given a job in those places. So I started off as an export clerk, then I became a sales administrator, then I became a brand assistant, then I became a brand manager, and at the grand age of 26, I left Bank of Ireland, left AC Nielsen after 2 years of working for them, and I then decided I wasn't going to work at all. I was going to stay home and just have babies, as you do. That lasted about 3 months after the baby was born, and then I set up my first business in 1998. I was 27. And in 1998, I set up a business called Stenix Media. And everyone keeps saying to me, well, how do you know what to set up in business? What are you going to set up in business as? What are you going to be? How do you know what you want to be? I didn't have a clue what I wanted to be, and I still don't. I still think when I grow up I'm going to be something I actually like to be, as opposed to myself. A man along my journey gave me the answer to how I got to where I was going, because I kept saying to him, is there a big secret to this setting up in business? Everyone keeps saying, you know, you're an entrepreneur, and I was saying, that's just a lot of bullshit. I just needed to earn money, and I just decided to do something, and when I decided to do it, I just went and do it, and I don't see what the big difficulty is. And he says, no, there is actually a formula to setting up a business. And I was like, come on, share them your big secret. He goes, well, it's really obvious. And I said, no, it can't be really obvious, because if it was obvious, then people would have told me sooner, and I'm now 30 odd, and I'm kind of getting tired of hearing that it's obvious. And he goes, well, it is really obvious, Nicola. And I said, right, come on, tell me. And he went, you take an existing business and you do it better. And I went, what? He goes, yeah. He says, you take an existing business and you do it better. You innovate better, you do it better, you deliver it better, you do better customer service. He says, you don't want to invent anything, because I was always looking at what could I invent, what could I make. You know, I'm very creative. I wanted to make, very unhappy at JML. You know the thing you stick on the shower floor and you wash your feet? Well, I invented that about 15 years ahead of them. And they're only bringing it to market now. And I was thinking, well, 15 years ago I came up with that idea, because I got tired of banging my head off the shower wall as I tried to clean between my toes. And I thought, well, if it's that simple, why doesn't everybody see it? And he says, they do, they just don't know it, because no one's told them the answer. So in my first business, I went to Aer Lingus, and at the time, my father was driving one of the directors of Aer Lingus, and I remember saying to him, I want to do Aer Lingus' ticket wallets, and they don't have any advertising on them, and I've been travelling internationally with all the big brands I was working for, and there's no advertising on their ticket wallets. Do you think Aer Lingus would let me put advertising space on their ticket wallets? And I'll deliver the wallets to them for free. So I knocked on Aer Lingus' door and they said no. Said, we're Aer Lingus, we're a very important brand, and we won't let any 28-year-old near our brand. No. So I said, well, if I find someone in advertising, would you let me put something on your ticket wallets? And they were like, oh, go away, go away, go away. So I went away and they said, eventually I kind of talent-focused persistence, I eventually got them to capitulate and say, if you can find somebody with a credible name in advertising that will back you up to do this, we'll allow you to do it. On that piece of information alone, I ran into Michael O'Leary and Michael Cawley and Ryanair, and they said yes. I ran to Stena Line, they said yes, because I've got to be really careful how you say this. You tell future truths. You don't tell lies. Ever. You never lie. But I told them that I had Aer Lingus, and therefore I should have all these. And after, basically all of them said yes, and they said once Aer Lingus starts, you then have our business, all my future truths. I then needed to find somebody in advertising, and obviously I didn't know anyone in advertising at all. And I went back to a work colleague and I just started asking questions. Does anybody know somebody who could help me? And one Sunday afternoon, this colleague in work at the time, or in my former work at the time, because I was at that stage unemployed, had said, I have a neighbour who's just retired from a very large advertising agency. Why don't we set up a meeting with him? And at this stage I have a baby in a carrier tot, and I'm sitting there in his front room on a Sunday afternoon asking for help. And he said he lives around the corner, so I picked up the baby, said what number? He said number 7. So I wandered around this posh kind of place in Dublin and Castleknock, and I ding-donged on the door. And this man opened the door, and he was tiny, and I was very large on top, breastfeeding my lovely baby, and he was eye height, so I was kind of going, oh, this is not going to go down well. And it was the moment of time you're thinking, why didn't I plan this a little bit better? But I was there, and I decided that, he said, can I help you? I said, well, Aer Lingus said they'd give me a contract, these are my opening words, if I found somebody in advertising who would put their name to my company, and they'd give me the contract. And he said, come in. And the next morning at 9 o'clock, I got a phone call off the marketing director at the time in Aer Lingus, who basically went, how the feck did you pull that off? And he goes, a deal's a deal, you have the contract. From then, I basically went across Europe. We got British Airways, we got KLM, we got Sabina, and ticket wallets were always going to be in decline. I've always been in a declining market. So at that point, Aircom had come into the picture because we'd been selling them Ryanair space. And they asked me would I sell all the advertising on their telephone boxes. And up to last September, for the past 14 years, I basically sold all the advertising space on Aircom telephone kiosks. And now for the last 6 years, that's been rather fraught, because bear in mind, they own 11811 and I'm 11890, and they helped me set up 11890, and then I got too big for my boots and started hurting them, and they don't like that, so they were a bit offbeat with me. But I have held 2 simultaneous contracts for Aircom, one to buy services off and the other one to sell advertising on their behalf. So it's been a strained relationship on the best of days. From there, I had a couple more kids subsequently, and I went on a family holiday to Blackpool. And at the time I was realising that my business was very dependent on other people allowing us to sell products on their behalf and brands on their behalf. And we didn't actually own anything. So I came up with the ingenious idea of taking existing business and doing better. They deregulated direct inquiries in the UK. There was 70 players in the market. There was only 2 in Ireland, and I decided in about 2004 that I was going to go into direct inquiries. I just decided I can do that better. And came back, again, walked around door to door and basically said, how do you set up a direct inquiries company? And everyone thought I was mad. There's this 34-year-old lunatic. She's going to need to raise a small fortune to compete with people who turn over billions, and she's naive enough to think she can do it. And so people kept patting me on the head, answering questions, but patting me on the head and moving me on. And in 2004, we went business to business with directory inquiries. We started with Onpost, KPMG, and AIB at the time. And I basically rang up, I looked up a book, pulled out 3 directors' names, and decided just to ring them and say, hi, I'm in the advertising business, but I'm going to set up a directory inquiries company. Will you talk to me? And you can imagine there's silence on the other end of the telephone when you say something like that. They're going, she's mad. But I kept ringing, and eventually then they kind of let me in, and then I explained to them what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And after a while they kind of went, yeah, just to get rid of me. Just say yes to her and she'll go away. So they said yes. I went off, set up a directory inquiries company. We went off, raised about 8, 10, 14 million by the time we're all told. We've managed to make money for the last 4 years. We were on track to make about £1.5 million, but I decided to go free, so we should come in around 700,000 at the end of this year. We employ 73 people currently because we're free. The big secrets along the way, well, they're actually not that much of a secret. There's been no rocket science in this. Next time I was going to go do all this again, I'd probably start an awful lot bigger, but you have to learn along the way. I don't know where the future is next, but in November this year, or last year, I've always been in a business that the business is declining. Ticket wallets gone, ticketless, telephone boxes, mobiles, director inquiries, smartphones. And for the first time ever, I thought, well, we're in trouble now because we are still in a declining market, making lots of money, but still all the same in a declining market. We were outsourcing our call centre. We did the government business last year. We worked with the French Embassy. We do lots of outsourced work as well, but we don't talk about it. We just win it quietly, do it and let it go. But that's not a future, because it was back to the same problem I had initially with all my business dealings, was that I didn't own it. In November last year, we had employed out of DCU a graduate in social media. And we spent a year trying to re-engineer the Golden Pages product. And I really wasn't happy, and we kept working on it and working on it. Till eventually I brought in my 2 shareholders who are very brilliant. And they sat down and went, you don't have anything to add to social media. All you've got is a 24/7 call centre. And at that moment in time, I threw them out of the office. I went home, took the dogs, took a walk on the beach, and I went, oh my God, I have got the most perfect solution for my future business, and I'm going to be, for the first time ever, in an expanding market. So I came home, came into the office the next day, and I said, everything you've been doing, lads, scrap it all. I want you to build me this, 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 and this. I want you to put it together. I went to Ulster Bank the last week in November and said, I'm going to build this and you're going to trial it. On Christmas, they were working over Christmas Eve, they were Christmas Day, the programmers kept working. January 17th, we launched a product. When I tell you what it is, you're going to go, well, that's bloody obvious. We launched the product January 17th. Yesterday, we signed up CRH, the biggest people in the stock exchange. We have Ulster Bank. We're likely to get ESB on Post. And PwC, KPMG. We're likely to have all these as customers in the next 3 to 4 months. The product was so simple and so obvious, I just can't believe I didn't see it for the previous year and a half, that we'd all been working and nobody saw the answer. And the answer was a very simple thing, is that we all have technology. We can monitor anything retrospectively. But what was happening with social media for big brands, big customers, even staff in organizations, where you're all aware of the poor KPMG girl on YouTube, and it went viral within 5-10 minutes of it being live. Well, what we do now is we set up a search engine at the beginning of the product, and it basically scrapes the internet every minute. So basically, if you're looking for Nicola at Byrne 11890, anytime anyone in any public forum has published something with my name and it matches the keywords, that tweet, Facebook post if it's public, social media, Vimeo, YouTube, there's about 2.5 million sites. Once it's public, it appears live in front of one of our agents. And at that moment in time, they classify it, so positive, neutral, negative, somewhat positive, somewhat negative. And they say whether it's urgent or not. Does she need to be got out of bed to deal with this? Is there something we should be doing with it? And then what happens is, depending on how serious it is, an escalation path takes place. So if it's urgent, I get a phone call. If it's not urgent, an email comes to my phone every time something happens about me. But it's read by a real person. And the reason that this is important is no technology has managed to beat the Irish. Because things like, I've just lost my house because Ulster Bank were slow with the mortgage paperwork, thanks Ulster Bank, is as negative and as sarcastic as it comes. But the word thanks automatically tells the algorithms, well, that's positive. You're having a laugh. Laugh used to be positive. Right now, laugh is, you're having a laugh, you're taking the piss. That is broadcast as a negative statement, but it can go either way. You're having a laugh or you're having a laugh. We don't know, and until somebody reads it and puts it into context. The other thing that's happening with social media is, and dare I say it about poor Ulster Bank, but 2 or 3 weeks ago, Ulster Bank's ATMs and network went down. We got there before their IT guys got there, because somebody tried to log in. As soon as they tried to log in and couldn't achieve it, they went straight to Twitter and went, has anyone else got a problem with Ulster Bank? At 9:08, that hit the internet. At 9:10, our agent was going, well, let's see if there's more of this. Suddenly at 9:15, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, suddenly there's an outage. We're on the phone to Ulster Bank going, get out of bed, you have a problem. We got there before their IT systems notified them. The power of social media needs to be watched live. So we've branded it Eyes on the Conversation. And the reason it's very important is sometimes the most obvious answer was sitting right in front of you. And we can provide that service 24/7 for about 20-30 grand a year. And you couldn't employ somebody 24/7 under probably about 130-140 grand to staff it up for all that time. So suddenly we turned something that was a very high-end product straight straight back into a direct inquiries model, and we've turned it into a commodity. And the product is there. Now, all that doesn't just happen. It happens for a couple of reasons. One, you've got to be asking the right questions, and I've actually brought some pictures just to prove that no matter how important you are, you're never not important enough that you can't ask the question. And this is why this is important, because these pictures started off as a running joke with they started off as a running joke with our Ken 3. This was Bill Cullen. I had got up one morning and obviously gone off to a photo shoot, and I just happened to be having lunch in Bill's place, and he said sit down and have a cup of tea. And you never sit down with Bill because he always tried to sell you something. And even to this day, even when everything's going belly up, he's one of the best salesmen, because no matter what he asks, you know, Nicola, do your staff need to go on a course? You know, I know things are bad, but could you send them on a course? And would they like to come to here, the Europa Clinic? That sign says afternoon Ken. There was a morning Ken, but I don't know what order these pictures are going to come out in for you. Obviously we had Sean Gallagher, that's an evening Ken, and Fergal, Gavin, then myself and girls, Teresa Lowe's there, some of you might remember. Then I got Niall Quinn to do a whole montage. Then I decided, well, let's take the, you know, let's have a bit of balls about this. Let's see if I walk up and see all the Taoiseach. I am a board member of the British Irish Chamber of Commerce, which is basically all the posh men in the city decided that we should have a Chamber of Commerce. And I can actually say this without laughing, but the Queen launched it about 2 years ago. And it's now the second anniversary, but there was one woman, me, and about 19 men, you know, Glenn Dimplex, PwC, the head globally of most of them. And we just done a photo shoot, and I would rarely stand beside the Taoiseach in a photo shoot for obvious reasons. And I stood beside him on that day, and I was thinking to myself, do I have the balls to ask him to hold up a piece of paper that says, "Hi, Ken"? I was thinking, do I have it? Like, what does it actually take to stop you? You know when you're asking somebody out on a date, and you're kind of thinking, what if she says no? And I discovered kind of a long time ago is, so fucking what? They say no, it doesn't matter. Like, you spend hours. So I literally wasn't drinking that day, and I was standing there with my glass of water going, do I have the neck in front of most heads of most businesses in Europe? Do I have the nerve in the British Embassy or the Irish Embassy to walk up and say, will you hold up a sign that says, "Hi, Ken"? And for about 10 minutes I kind of waited up, and then I suddenly said to myself, fear only exists in my head. The only place, because all he could say is no. So I walked up and I said Enda, and the guy behind him went Taoiseach, and I went Enda, and the guy behind corrected me again, and then Enda goes, leave her, because she's not going to back down, just leave her. And I thought, well, that's not so bad. But you know, no matter how important you are, how successful you are, and which success you think you have, if you don't ask, you're never going to know the answer. So I went around basically getting people to hold up "Hi, Ken" signs, to the point where I MC, there's Louis Copeland, Jedward. Now, I didn't get this one. What magically started to happen after I started presenting this, and a couple of my friends, like adult friends, came into the room, and actually then they decided to see, well, were they capable of getting a "Hi, Ken" sign? So Jedward happened to be on a flight with a friend of mine, and she decided, well, I'm 50, I don't really care. So she went up, and in front of her 15-year-old daughter, who was cringing, she went up and says, will you hold up a "Hi, Ken" sign? And the lads went, yeah, no problem, whatever you need. And so they held up the "Hi, Ken" sign. That was Joe Schmitz and the Heineken Cup. That's Alan Shatter as of last Friday. Very hard to see because he's kind of that way, and I couldn't figure out how to turn it now. But the reason I had taken these pictures initially was, one, to prove I was actually doing some work, not just wandering around having fancy lunches with famous people. That's not how it works. But that it actually takes a huge amount to ask for something small. But along the way, if I hadn't have asked for help, or if I hadn't looked for help, or hadn't shared the problem, and that was where the other key kind of message came in. So fear only exists in my head. If you don't ask, you don't get. It's only a no. And the other bit that I discovered was people want to help you. They actually want to come out of the way and help you. When you ask, they feel almost obliged. So there's a little thing called cognitive dissonance. It's do a man a favour. And you think when you do somebody a favour that they owe you back. But it doesn't work like that. It's do a man a favour and owe them for life. Because, how do I explain this in like 2 seconds to you? Because I'm going to hug all the time otherwise. Benjamin Franklin, go Wikipedia this afterwards, right? Benjamin Franklin discovered a thing called Benjamin Franklin effect. It's called cognitive dissonance. I am a sane and rational person, and I can't hold two opposing views. So I can't love you and I can't hate you simultaneously. I can only do one or the other. It's not a choice. And what happens when you ask somebody to do you a favour is they want to think they're a good person. and they think they're great. You've asked them for their time, they know they're important, and so when they say yes, you have them forever. So Enda Kenny held that up thinking, I've done a favour for Nicola Byrne, she now owes me one. That's not what the psychology lesson says. What essentially happens is that he will owe me forever. So no matter what I ask for, he will continue to say yes and yes and yes, and he won't know why. And the why is because he doesn't want me to dislike him at any point. And so when you get very clever at using this, and I didn't know I'd been doing this, but thanks to the IMI and a little bit of behavioural psychology and a couple of handy people that you employ with very nice masters, this stuff really matters. When somebody does you a favour, and the more they don't like you, the more effective it is. So you're particularly looking for people that you get in their nerves, that don't like you, they think you're full of crap. They're the people to go ask most for. And the more important they are, the harder it is for them to say no. And once they say yes, you're in. And they will say yes forever, and they will go out of their way to help you. You'll all have done it yourselves. You'll have the one friend who never does anything for you, and you find yourself doing everything for them. Agreed? Yeah? You all have one. Everyone has one. That's the way we all work. You've all got a friend who just keeps saying yes to. Well, the trick is when you're in business, is that if you ask early and often, you will find, to your surprise, and against everything you've ever believed in your head, that these things just magically keep appearing for you. I wouldn't be here today unless somebody asked. What was the worst that could have happened? I'd have said no, they'd have gone off and asked someone else, because they've learned to just keep walking over the nose. And initially you don't get it. So it does come down to talent, focus, and persistence. It also comes down to one other thing, and it's the most tiniest basic little lesson I'm going to give you all. It's called trust. And trust isn't just a magic word on its own. It actually has three components. It's got empathy, involvement, and competence. And it works in that I'm kicking off today at this conference at 9:30, and you're going, great. Share my pain. Yeah, I understand you have a big event, you've done a lot of work, I'll be there at 9:30. The involvement is getting my ass here. And, you know, are you on your way? Yeah, I'm on my way, I'm nearly there. And the competence is actually turning up at 9:30. And if you don't have all three elements every time you want someone, so the trick with trust is to always aim to deliver really low and overachieve it. So if someone says to you, I'll meet you at 1 o'clock, meet them at 1 o'clock. Because you start undermining the trust, they won't ask you to do the big things. The big things is, I need 14 million from you. Will you trust me to go and spend that money well? Your investors just don't hand you money. You know, they want to trust you. And it's the little things. You don't turn up for your meeting in a shabby suit. You don't look, they trust you're going to turn up. They trust you're going to be clever. They trust you're going to be competent. And you really, 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 really want to set that bar really low and overachieve it every time. If someone says, come for an interview at 5 to 11, you come for the interview at 5 to 11. Because in 5 years' time, when you need them, it's really, really, really important that they remember that you turned up every time you said you turn up. Not, he's always 10 minutes late, and I'm not really sure I trust him with my 14 or 15 million when the chips are down, is he going to come across the line with the goods? Will the competence be there? Will they deliver? And it's the little things that'll hang you, not the big things. Everyone can make a big mistake. Phil Cullen can make a big mistake. Everyone can make big mistakes. But it's the little things that people will go back eventually and go back and trade with him again, because he always delivered on the little things. So this morning, I'm going to leave you with the trust. Fear does only exist in your head. No matter how important you think you are, or everyone else perceives you to be, you're not. You're just you, and you can ask for anything. And anyone who tells you you can't ask, and you'll have the friends pulling you back by the coattails, going, don't ask, that's stupid, they'll think you're stupid. I don't care how stupid I look. Am I getting to where I want to go? Yes. Do I look like a complete idiot? I don't care. Did he say yes? Yes, he did. Did Enda Kenny stand in the middle of a room as proud as punch and hold up a high Ken sign? Yes, he did. And so it doesn't matter what you think, and it doesn't matter what your friends think. All that matters is the action that you take. So best to look for the future, because lads, it is that simple. You just have to ask. Thank you.